I was speaking to Jeff Booth recently, and he was down in El Salvador, and he spoke. And he actually went and spoke to a group of people that were very anti-government and thus anti-Bitcoin. And he kind of discussed with them. And by the end of his talk, people were starting to come around and say, okay, well, it can be useful in that sense, but you're very pro Bitcoin. What's, in your opinion, the worst thing about Bitcoin? And he said, in his opinion, that the worst thing about Bitcoin is that you have to be okay that the person you hate can use Bitcoin. And not only that, but the person you hate using Bitcoin makes it better and stronger for you. And that's something that a lot of people are going to have to grapple with, that even the people that you disagree with, them using Bitcoin makes it more robust for you. It makes the network more robust. It makes your money more valuable and more useful in more places. And so it's a difficult thing for a lot of people to parse, because we're so used to kind of, especially in the last however many years, this divisiveness where it's like you can't use the same thing as the people that you disagree with. Oh, well, there's this social network is for, this side of the political spectrum, and we're going to kick all these other people off. And then they're going to make their own social network. And, we need to try and stop them from having funding to that one. And, it's so, this thing is mine and this thing is yours. And all of a sudden there's this global network that is everybody's. And yes, one side of the political spectrum, just probably due to nothing more than timing, leans towards this kind of open and free network.
Do you think it's timing, though?
I do. I 100% do, because go back, a few decades. Go back to the time when, even go back to, I grew up in the 90s, and my impression was, by and large, that the conservatives were going to be the party that was the most prone to censorship. And I grew up with that, seeing things like, oh, they're not allowing this to be on TV or this message to be out. They're worried that video games are going to rot my brain and turn me into a crazed lunatic and gun people down. And so my thought was that the conservative side of the aisle would be the one that's most kind of stringent on limiting speech. And then I came to adulthood, and the pendulum swung to the other side, and I kind of saw the opposite. And it's really just a matter of who has the most power at the most time. Both parties are equally prone to limiting ideas from the other. So I think in a different time, which I recognize that wouldn't have happened with technology limitations, but let's put that aside. If Bitcoin had sprung forth at a different point in history, when civil rights movements were kind of front and center, and that was trying to be stamped down upon, Bitcoin would have been a tool for civil rights movements to make sure that their protests and everything they were doing was funded and not be able to be shut down. So yeah. I do think it's very much a symptom of timing as to which political party hones in on Bitcoin as a tool.